Hello ladies and gents, Hagbard Celine here on another beautiful afternoon, and this is part 2 of the LunchBox Saga. It begins with a story several weeks later, where we had followed the guidelines that we probably should have been following the whole time. We stopped calling, stopped interacting, never went near these people, and essentially cut ties with anyone who had ever been in contact with them. And we thought it was over, we weren't going to go back out, we weren't really under the belief that we were worth the effort of driving all the way outside of their own area to come find. Not for the small amount of money that this product had been worth. A couple $100 hardly seemed worth it. Until one day we're walking down the street and we hear tires lock up and a car pull in directly in front of us in a parking lot. And there he is. LunchBox. And his little Polynesian friend. The one that eventually he would end up hospitalizing and I believe ending up cursing with a life of having a permanent brain shunt, if I remember correctly. But they leapt out of the car and started running at us. And I just stood there. What was I going to do? It was a major highway. What am I going to do, turn around and fight these guys tired after running? Because I'm not going to outrun them. That was never my strong point. My brother maybe, but I was going to get caught. So that was never going to be a problem. They basically confronted me on the side of the road and said, "Ha, you see, we can appear whenever we want, yada yada yada." So I figured maybe it's time to start taking alternate routes. And that worked perfectly well for about a year and a half, till essentially I forgot about it. Now during this year and a half, if you listen to the first story, you'll know I was introduced by an old high school friend. Well, this old high school friend's boyfriend and I had been hanging out and essentially working together for several months. Legitimate work, not working, but legitimately working together for several months at a job that paid actual money for hourly labor. And one day he called me out of the blue. Now, I was under the impression that he and this original household had had their own falling out, and that no longer were they communicating in any capacity. Turns out that they'd both set aside their differences to confront me. So, I get a phone call from him saying, "Hey, come meet me at the park, we'll smoke out, whatever, no big deal." Pretty normal conversation in those days. Well, I get me, my brother, and the girl I was dating at the time, because this is a friend of mine, and I think it's a fairly safe scenario just a couple blocks from my house. So we take our usual path through the woods, and then we emerge, only to see he's standing there with LunchBox. Not only had in this moment I walked into the setup that they had laid for me, but I made it even juicier by bringing someone I cared about and who was essentially innocent. The girl I was dating at the time was not skeezy. She was an upper middle class girl, and I probably shouldn't have been anywhere around her. Basically, the friend who had invited me out there and was complicit in this wanted this to end without violence, so he said. And I'm inclined to believe him, because LunchBox is actually insane and my buddy was not. And he wasn't due to get anything out of the scenario. He simply stopped LunchBox from potentially coming to my house with a gun. So I can't be too mad at him for the setup, but I did pretty much sever ties with that community from that point on. Although it was too late, and my girlfriend at the time actually paid the money in that scenario to bail me out, which, in retrospect, was probably one of the last nails in the coffin of that relationship. But that is the story of how I was relentlessly pursued for almost 2 years over about $250 of medium-grade marijuana in Central Florida. The type of marijuana which, here, I probably wouldn't even buy. Funny how life works. But that's it for me, ladies and gents, and always remember, these stories are not glorification. These stories are a warning. These stories are what not to be. These stories, for me, are an embarrassment. They're amusing, but they're an embarrassing amusement. And that's it for me, ladies and gents. As usual, stay safe, good luck, and goodbye.